back at the Amazon Game Tech booth here at GDC 2019, and we're going to talk about security. Now, of course, security is a big topic for us at Amazon. We really value our customers, and we know how much you want to be protected, but how about our game developer customers? Nothing worse as a player than going to try to get into a game and finding that you can't get to your game because it's under attack. Directed denial of service, it's a real bummer. I've got Daniel Blumskog here from our AWS team. He's been working on resilient architecture to help your games weather the storm, so to say, right? Hi, Daniel, how are you?
I'm good, thanks.
So take me through some of the ideas around DDoS architecture, how we are protecting customers and making games, easier to get to all the time.
Yeah, so we have a few products that help us do that. It's WAF and Shield mostly from the edge locations, but we also do a lot of behind the scenes best practices, blog posts around that, how you can protect your multiplayer games. They are kind of different if you do a mobile game compared to an FPS shooter game, like latency requirements and attack surfaces, trying to minimize those and everything. So yeah, common sites of attacks are in the multiplayer game setting. You usually have tons of backend services for games like logins, game sessions, getting your team together, everything like that. If an attacker comes in and shuts that down, it basically means that you can't get into any games. So that's, if you have a launch day, big game, you get a DDoS attack on you, it gets shut down, reputation of the game goes down, you might be harder to attract more users and everything. So yeah, that's what we're trying to help you.
So when you look at these different sites of attacks, what are some of the best practices that you could recommend to those watching?
For here, well, obviously for a DDoS attack, trying to mitigate it as soon as possible, like as close to the source as possible. That's the main thing. If you can't handle everything at the source, usually it's block the attacks first, then it's scale your backend services to handle the attacks so your game is still functional while you're getting attacked. And while you have that set up, you can then look into more proactive things, like have a team come in, do things, block things, set up different rules on the edge for that. So yeah, that's most.
So here where we're talking about architecture, I'm guessing that scalability is one of the key components for your architecting. Can you give us a little example about how you might architect if you're thinking about this on AWS to improve your resilience?
Yeah, so what you usually do is you have automatic scaling, elasticity of your game services and everything. So if someone tries to attack your login service, should handle the traffic, for example, with our CDN, that's CloudFront, that also does automatic DDoS mitigation for you behind the scenes without you having to do anything from the get-go. But also do, from a back-end perspective, load balancing between different servers, scaling that up automatically when you handle the traffic and everything, so your game is still up and running, so you can do mitigations while you still have a functioning service. So, yeah.
And are there some underlying elements of the AWS CDNs and the way the structure is built that help game developers also be protected?
Yeah, so included in Route 53, that's our DNS service, and in CloudFront we have two things that are AWS Shield, that is a service that is always on, you don't have to enable it or anything. It handles protection from lots of common flooding attacks like SYN floods, UDP floods, and everything that's common attack fronts in gaming. So that's one of the things that we do automatically for you. But then there's also architecting your backend service to handle these kind of attacks. And there where we come in and help you, talk to you, what's your use cases, how can you architect this in the best practice way, being well architected on AWS. That's where we come in and help you as well, best practice.
Well, Daniel, thanks very much for showing us the DDoS stuff. There you guys get it. It's it's a full spectrum approach. If you really want to be protected against these denial of service attacks, there's best practices, there's architecting you can do, and then there's being on a resilient CDN structure. Check out more of that at AWS, and of course, when you're ready to launch, we're going to turn around the corner right here and check out how to deploy your game content to millions of folks in the world. I've got David Brown, he's a solution architect here with AWS. Hi, David, how are you?
Good, how are you?
So talk to me about deploying around the world and how we assist with that at AWS.
Sure, so when you want to deploy your game throughout the world, we have a product called AWS CloudFront, which is a content delivery network that allows you to seamlessly scale almost to infinite capacity in case you have a game that's a huge hit and you have millions of people trying to download it throughout the world nearly instantly. The idea is to bring the content as close to the end user as you can by caching content throughout our global network of POPs or points of presence throughout the world.
So again, obviously as a longtime gamer, I'm a little bit ignorant to this because I just press a button and the content shows up in my machine, whether it be a PC or an Xbox or wherever it might be. But what I'm hearing, and I've seen us talk about this for several years now that I've been here at AWS, what's the core problem that developers face in trying to achieve this this global distribution?
Right, yeah, the main challenge is latency. In terms of responding back to your client with the latest information or game data. You can never go faster than the speed of light, so you're always going to be bound to how fast you can send data across the world. And so by bringing that content closer to the end user, you're really cutting down on the time it takes to get content from AWS's servers or your game servers to the end user themselves.
So if I'm a developer, it sounds like it's a bit magic, but it's not, right? I imagine we have like some planned solutions for how to do that. Walk me through if I was wanting to set up doing this with my own game, what would be my considerations and how would I get started there? Sure,
so you want to make sure that the content that you're going to be delivering is actually content that you want to have publicly available. So you need to make sure that your game servers are publicly available in an AWS region or any origin that is even outside of AWS would work with CloudFront. And so getting started is really just as simple as going into the AWS console and creating a distribution on CloudFront where you tell CloudFront this is where you need to go get content. And then it will sort of handle it from there. You just direct your traffic to the CloudFront URL that you're given, and traffic starts to flow through the CDN. It starts to cache at the edge by itself. You don't have to do anything. It's very simple to get up and running on.
So it sounds like it's a really great managed service then, right? Obviously something I can drop into with a reasonable engineering commitment and be very successful now getting around the world.
Yeah, exactly. It's super easy to set up. It doesn't require too much in terms of code changes. It's usually just swapping out a URL and you're up and running in a matter of minutes.
That's awesome, David. Thank you so much for telling us about how you're getting around. Folks, this is one of the many ways, obviously dreaming big and building bigger often sounds like it's something just about game design, but you've got to have a way to get your content out to people. You've got to have ways to have that content then be available all the time, and that's some of the things we do with Amazon Game Tech. Stick around, we're going to be back here with more from GDC 2019.